welcome to Assembly Summer. This is ZhuGeLiang. I'm here with Liquid Snute. We both just played in the ASUS ROG tournament, and let's just talk a little bit about your group stage first. You lost to Hero, and then you beat Armani, and then you barely lost to PT Drogo.
Yeah, that's what happened. I think it went okay. I wish I could have played a little bit better against Drogo. I wish I could have done a little bit better against Hero, of course. But I think overall it went pretty well.
All right. Well, we're just going to dive a little bit into the tournament and talk about some more personal stuff. So it seems like the pending retirement for Liquid Snute is happening very soon. Like, if you would have been a little bit wiser, if you would have retired last year and started school 2018 autumn, do you think that it would have been better? You would have already been like 1/3 done with school at this point.
I don't think it would have been wise because that would be around the same time that I was still playing actively. And I think it was nice to take a time in between to think. Like, these decisions are very gradual, so it doesn't all happen at once. Like, I'm pretty sure like in summer or in spring last year, I didn't necessarily expect to quit. But I think stepping down from StarCraft is more often than not, it's a gradual thing rather than something sudden.
I see, makes a lot of sense. So this follows up to the question of there's going to be a lot of young kids born between 2001 and 2002 when you start school. And the tutors or the lecturers might already be your age. So how will you feel about that?
Yeah, we'll see what the class looks like. But honestly, I'm not really too concerned. When I went to university the first time, I was one of the on the younger side of things. And there were some older people in my class, and I didn't really think much of it. I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good in the Nordics. They don't really, there's no age, what do you call that, disrespect. But okay, looking back at your career, I think everybody would see the height of it being 2014 to 2015, where you were the only foreigner who could stand up to the top Koreans in the big premier tournaments. Do you feel like you could have grabbed one of those big premier championships where the top Koreans were participating?
I think winning something like Intel Extreme Masters at that point in time, let's say the one in Toronto or the one in Shenzhen, like I played a lot of different ones, right? But I think those tournaments were always stacked to the point where I was an underdog no matter what. I think I would need a lot of luck, and I would have to play my very best on the day. And who knows? Like, maybe if I played a little bit better, it would have worked. But I think the field was just so stacked that that's why I wasn't able to win a single one.
Okay, let's go back to the very past, or to the beginning in 2012. I actually attended DreamHack Summer, as you did, and also Zeril. So back then you actually played Zeril in the group stage. And in the interview, you just kind of shrugged him off as some low GM, high master player. Did you think that back then he would become something special?
No, I didn't really think that he would grow into this monster that he is today. But I mean, you cannot really tell that early if someone is going to be on such a ridiculous trajectory. It took Cyril a very long time before he finally started to hit the level that he's at right now. Like, for him, it was also a very gradual process. And I don't think anyone back in 2011, 2012, or maybe even 2014 would be able to predict this without having to gamble on it, essentially.
That's a good point. Like, people don't know that Cyril's been in the scene since the beginning,
Exactly.
pretty much. Yeah. All right.
And I can add to that also. Like, there's a lot of players that are also very young and have a little bit of a similar setup. They go to a tournament and they maybe win a few maps here and there. But there's been a lot of those players also that haven't become or hit that sort of level, right? So it's not something that any young player can do, to just show up at an event, have a good run, and then all of a sudden 4 years later this player is like the number one, right? It's actually rather uncommon.
Good point. Good point. Okay, so let's come to the present again. So, what do you think has contributed to this gradual decline? Like, do you feel like the job of being a pro gamer is like just too stressful, both on a psychological and physical level?
No, I think most of the issues was last summer, which wasn't really that good of a time for me. It was very stressful in real life. I had a lot of there was a heat wave combined with a lot of stress. Like the tournaments weren't really going that well. There was a lot of construction work where I lived for some time, and I thought it would be okay. But essentially, like I developed a lot of muscle problems during this time also. So it was a combination of a lot of different factors, unlucky timings, and yeah, like I eventually I couldn't focus on the game. Like my MMR started dropping a lot. My tournament results weren't there, so it all kind of snowballed. And also around that time, I didn't necessarily feel all that great about the future prospects for SC2 tournaments. Because I feel like every year we lose a little bit, very slowly, very quietly. We lose a little bit of tournaments here and there. So I think there's a decline. It's not the fastest decline ever, but all of those different things that happened last summer made me rethink things, and ultimately at some point I'm gonna have to stop pro gaming anyway, and to at least have something else, right? So it's more of a matter of, am I gonna start today? Am I gonna start tomorrow? Or should I keep playing professionally for 4 more years? Like I probably could have done that, right? But I think it's more sensible to start now, even if I could have theoretically started even sooner also, right, Zhuge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like you've analyzed your life very well, and you worked so hard for so many years, brought us so
Exactly.
many good games. So I think you deserve to start resting. Although uni life might not be that chill.
Yeah.
So maybe the last question is, do you have any regrets with your career? If it's gonna end maybe this year-ish, do you have any regrets?
It's a bit dangerous to start thinking in that route, because all of a sudden you'll find yourself not being grateful for the things that you've experienced. Of course, I wish that it would be easier for me to give it 100% even more. There's always like this little, in the back of my mind, I've always had this feeling that I should be doing something else, which is because of the way that I've been growing up with games and the culture around the time when I grew up with it. Like it's always been not exactly taboo, but it hasn't been perceived as a positive when I grew up. In the media, like things are very different these days. So because of the way that I basically grew up with games, I think I spent a lot of time with it, and it wasn't necessarily all that well received. And yeah, it wasn't nearly as accepted as it is becoming today. So that's kind of stopped me a little bit from maybe, let's say, doing something like moving to Korea. I haven't really been too comfortable with something like that and really YOLOing it like 100%, right?
Yeah.
There's always been a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind. So if I could do it again, I would maybe gamble a little bit harder on just thinking that it's going to be okay, right? I was very optimistic when I started, and I think I've been like 8 out of 10 optimistic. But if I could go back, I would probably be like 10 out of 10 and really try to build like a huge, like make my life more about it. Yeah, because I've always had it in the back of my mind that it's going to end at some point, but I've probably been feeling that way a little bit too much compared to what I actually had to.
All right. Well, I think, you know, the esport and StarCraft community, we're like a family, and I think we're all gonna remember you for all of your great achievements. So that's yeah.
Yeah, and also it's not like I'm going to disappear completely. I just want to have something to fall back on, and university, I think it's important to be sustainable about the things you do, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm still going to play StarCraft. I'm still going to be streaming a lot of StarCraft, hopefully. It's just the competitions that I'm not going to focus on as much. So it's not like I'm going to disappear completely.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the fans of Liquid Snute will be very happy then. Well, thanks for the interview. That's it.